In the 1880s, the search for Atlantis would take a new turn, and then take the world by storm. But it would come from a most unlikely source. Ignatius Donnelly was a maverick of his time. A businessman by training, he spent one term in the United States Congress before losing a bitter re-election campaign. Depressed at his defeat, Donnelly found himself spending hours in the Library of Congress, soaking up books about history, archaeology, and ancient civilizations. He was also keen on the popular literature of the day, and was especially fond of the spirited science fiction adventures of Jules Verne. Back in his native Minnesota, Donnelly locked himself away for days on end, feverishly laying out on paper his own unique theory about the lost continent of Atlantis. He was convinced, as Plato had said, that it was buried deep in the Atlantic Ocean, where it held the key to all of civilization. In 1882, the publication of his book, Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, riveted the nation. Translated into many languages, it outsold all other books and set off a worldwide mania about Atlantis. Donnelly believed that all the world's mythology and history, even art and architecture, sprang from one common source. Could it be that all the great utopian myths, even the Garden of Eden, represented a universal memory of the single great land, Atlantis? Researching his subject in meticulous detail, Donnelly claimed that all the kings and queens of the world's great mythologies were in fact the lost royalty of Atlantis. He claimed that the Greek god Atlas, who carried the world on his shoulders, was one and the same as the Mexican Toltec god Quetzalcoatl. Both, he said, were variations of an ancient Atlantean god. In Donnelly's theory, even the concept of pyramids, both Mayan and Egyptian, sprang from Atlantis.
And he said, well, if there are pyramids in Egypt and pyramids in the Americas, the pyramid, the idea of the pyramid, originated on Atlantis. And when the people left Atlantis, some went to Egypt and took their pyramid ideas with them, and some went to the Americas and built pyramids there.
But is it possible that two societies, situated thousands of miles apart, could be linked to the same source?
They both had the same astronomy, they both had the same calendars. There is a Mayan, one of their leaders, leaving from a volcano and going out into the sea, which is the same story that Plato told about Atlantis.
People gravitated together who believed in Donnelly's version of Atlantis. Some of them were mystics.
The story of Atlantis also became fundamental to a growing interest in psychic phenomena and spiritualism that was sweeping the world at the turn of the century. At the forefront of this movement stood a strange and enigmatic figure, Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. She was born in Russia in 1831. It was said that as a child, she talked with spirits in her sleep. As a young woman, she traveled the globe extensively. According to her, the Atlanteans did exist, but they were only the third of 7 root races of mankind, their predecessors being a race called the Lemurians. Millions of years ago, she said, the Lemurians had also sunk into the sea in one of many worldwide floods. Echoing this belief, and the story of Noah in the Bible, even Plato wrote of a recurring cycle of natural disaster, recurring cycle of natural disaster, recurring cycle of natural disasters.
We have this kind of collective memory, if I can call it that, of a worldwide flood. There are, of course, people who claim that they have found Noah's Ark on top of a mountain in Turkey. And it's one of the mysteries that we have to deal with when we're looking at mythology from different peoples.